We're back here at AROPL Studios with our dear brother Zhong Al Al-Mahdi. Thank you for joining us, Zhong.
Thank you for having me, guys.
We're very excited actually to jump into your story because I'm sure the viewers have noticed you in the footage, in the content that we have, and they've been wondering what your story really is, and they probably have a lot of questions for you. So on their behalf, we're going to be asking you some of those questions, and let's see what the answers will be.
Sounds good.
Let's start with something very simple and the obvious one. Where were you born, and what did you used to believe in? What was your initial religious background?
Yeah. Sure. So I think to begin with, hello everybody, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zhong, and I'm 22 years old, and I was born in Spain, in Western Europe. And growing up in Spain, my parents, being Chinese, they were obviously Buddhists, but non-practicing Buddhists, although they would consider Buddhism more as a way of life instead of a religion. So I was brought up upon Buddhist principles, right, such as karma, reincarnation, and always try and do good things, lest bad things happen to you. And having said that, all my friends were Christians around me in a Catholic country, right? So I sort of lost touch with my religion, or the religion of my forefathers, right? So I was very open to everything, I remember for one specific period of my life, I was atheist. It was around 10 or 13 years old, because I was young, and when you're young, you don't really understand much, and you judge on the apparent, right? So the argument was, how do I know if God exists?
Right.
But then the counter argument to that obviously is, how do you know he doesn't exist, right? It's on the contrary.
I suppose so.
You know for a fact he does. It's just you have to think about it and contemplate it. But anyways, that was my short tenure as an atheist, and then afterwards I had a couple of experiences that led me to agnosticism. So the belief of a higher power, higher being, a higher creator, without being able to put my finger to it. So I left the door open. I knew that God was out there. I just didn't know which path to take. Was it Christianity? Was it Islam? Was it Buddhism? Was it spirituality? I wasn't too sure, And I got busy with life, so I didn't really investigate too much.
Yeah, as somebody who grew up Buddhist,
yes.
Were your parents the kind of Buddhists that believe that God exists, or the kind of Buddhists that believe that God doesn't exist?
So they were the kind of Buddhists that believe that he exists, but they believe that he doesn't meddle with our affairs. So he kind of takes a back seat, lets the cause and effect take care of everything, and he's just there as an observer. This is what they live their life by. Yeah.
So the concept of God that they have is quite different to the concept of God that you find in.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, did you have any experience with your Christian friends, your Catholic friends, when you discussed these issues, and what was the how would you, for example, I can imagine that perhaps you may have had a conversation where they told you something that made you rethink what you are growing up into, being such a minority religion. I don't know if you were able to practice Buddhism in your context, maybe with people in your hometown, maybe they were Chinese as well. How was the interaction between different faiths growing up?
Well, I would say that this really, really helped in a big way because, well, first of all, it made me open my mind to the idea that other religions, of the fact that there are other religions, and they have their own beliefs. And this led me eventually to come to the realization that every religion has a bit of truth in it, that every religion stems from the same source, but I was curious why Christianity is so different than Buddhism, for example, and why Islam came about, what was the continuation, why Judaism is back here, why Hinduism is over here looking to the West, why so many splits when the message is the same.
So you're looking at that bigger picture, and you had that kind of, I suppose, that privilege where you were able to, because you weren't confined in a one of those kinds of religions, like perhaps if you were a Muslim or a Christian, you might be thinking this is the be-all, end-all of truth.
For sure, yeah.
But now, as someone who was exploring religion and with a Buddhist background, that's a bit lenient as well.
Yes.
you could actually look at the whole thing and say, okay, what's the story behind all of this?
Exactly.
So what happened? How did you, where did that lead you in your exploration?
Yeah. So it led me to exploration, as you mentioned, right? And this was more along my university days. So a couple of years afterwards, a couple of years ago, went through some hardships in life, you know, and then when you're down and you know, you turn to your friends and they can't really help, turn to your parents, they can't really help. You can't help yourself because you were the one who put yourself in the situation. The only one you can turn to is God himself, right? So you ask sincerely to God, like, help me, you know, like, guide me, take me where I need to go, and he'll, like the Hadith Qudsi says, he'll come to you, you know, if you ask for him. He's closer to you than your jugular vein, right? And that's exactly what happened. And if you want, we can get into the specifics. I'll give you like a bit of the context of what happened. So, previous to finding the call, I had actually become a Muslim, okay? And the reason why I became a Muslim was because in my mind, in my logic, all the religions had a bit of truth in it, but I knew that they were getting updated constantly. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family, was sort of like the latest prophet, the one closest to us. So I said, okay, Prophet Muhammad's message resonates with me. I think it's a beautiful message. I think the revelations he gave and the whole social, political environment that he was in and the changes he made were revolutionary. So I will follow him, right? And then when I followed him, or when I took my Shahada, I didn't know that there were so many sects, honestly. I didn't know there was Sunni, Shia, Hanbali. To this day, I still don't know how many sects there are. Like
I don't think anyone does. There are so many, and they keep growing and they keep multiplying. It's
exactly, which is what the Hadith say.
Exactly.
Right. So when I found out that there were so many sects, the question that I had was, okay, which one? You know, which one should I pick? Is it this one? Is it that one?
How did you feel at that point? Did you feel like worried or concerned or resentful? Like, what was your feeling seeing all this variety, and how did that feel for you?
I would say confused and a bit like apprehensive. You know, I had to tread lightly. You know, I really had to find the one that would take me to the truth.
Right.
Because this is something that I forgot to mention. Ever since I was a kid, I always told people, or I always had in my heart, that I wanted to find the truth. And from the beginning, I didn't really understand what that statement meant. Now I'm starting to see what that led me to, you know. So always finding the truth. And in my search for the truth, you know, I tried to narrow down which sect to follow. And then one day, I was sitting on my sofa in my apartment in London, in a basement. It was cold. It was November, I remember very, very distinctly. And I was just scrolling through YouTube Shorts, as you know, the modern day 21st century person does. And suddenly I get this reel from the Mahdi Has Appeared YouTube channel, right? And it's the reel that says Imam Mahdi has appeared.
The most viral one that we have.
The viral one, And at this particular moment, I still didn't know who Imam Mahdi was.
So prior to this moment, did you have any idea of who the Mahdi in general was, or this was a new concept?
No, this was I heard about it, but I you know, I didn't. It's just a Mahdi. I knew about the word Mahdi.
But you're a Muslim at this point.
Yes.
But what kind of Muslim are you? What did you pick in the end?
Nothing.
No, so just Muslim.
How long have you been
still investigating?
How long had you been in Islam back in?
4 or 5 months, I would say.
Okay, so very fresh to the religion.
Exactly.
So the concept of the Mahdi still hadn't been something that you were focusing on.
Exactly.
So what happens when you find this video?
So I see this video, I see this short, and I see it, and I see Abu Sadiq on the minbar, right? I scroll by, and then my mind like refreshes and catches up, and makes me pull down, and I watch it again.
Wow.
Just I don't understand why, but it was just something about Abu Sadiq alayhi salam that made me double take, right? And after that, I saw him and I said, okay, this is interesting. What is this about? Or what is this man saying? Because the stuff he was saying was like earth-shattering. You know, he was saying, I remember like, he was declaring innocence from the Arab leaders, and but then Mahdi is Muslim, so I was like,
wait a second.
Yeah, what's happening here, right? Like he's Muslim, but he's cursing the Arab leaders. Like, and then I clicked the video, And I remember one of the first videos I watched was the Antichrist Dajjal video, you know. And at this point, I knew about the Antichrist, the Dajjal. I knew about the fact that he's like the liar. And then I put two and two together. I said, the Mahdi is going to be the one who fights the Dajjal. And then Jesus Christ is going to come, right? So I start piecing the puzzles together. But then when I watched the 52-minute video, I remember my whole life just changed completely, 180.
Wow.
Because I saw how Abba Sadiq took narrations from Jewish sources, Christian sources, and Muslim sources, pieced them together so perfectly, so airtight, and it's undeniable.
SubhanAllah.
And it just points, like the very simple fact I remember very clearly for me was, the Dajjal is one-eyed, you know, and verily your God is not one-eyed.
SubhanAllah.
Right? And then I used to carry a dollar bill in my wallet the whole time, because my dad gave it to me, and I used to only take it out for special occasions. And that moment after the video, I took out the dollar bill, I flipped it around, and I just see this triangle looking back at me.
Wow.
And then this was just like a personal sign for me, you know. Like the connection in my mind, and God opened my eyes, and He was like, "Yeah, look, it's in front of you." You know.
But that's the thing, because you were looking for the truth. You saw the signs, and you were looking for them, and you recognized them, and you appreciated them.
Yes.
You gave them the importance that they deserved, and you applied what you were finding around you into your life, and that's so necessary for a true truth seeker. And you put it into action. That's why you're where you are right now.
Yeah, and alhamdulillah, I think it's very important as well when you ask a sign to God to follow through with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because what's the point of giving a sign if you don't follow through with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you saw that short, and what happened next? What was your next? And you saw the video about the Antichrist.
Yeah.
So at this point, you were still researching, still looking into it, and at this point, you're also in Imperial College London.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
And what were you studying there?
Chemical engineering.
Right, and you finished your course.
I did finish, and it was during my last year of university where I embarked on this journey.
So what happened? What was the next step to this path?
So it was the university kind of took like the side burner, like I put it on the side, and I focused more on this, like knowledge and discovery. And I started watching Abba Sadiq's videos every night. I started investigating more, reading The Goal of the Wise. I remember when I read The Goal of the Wise, my mind like absolutely shattered once again.
Yeah.
Like the way things connect, and hadiths and Jewish narrations and Christian narrations and other sources, and puts them all together and produces this 600-page book that's just pure distilled knowledge. It's incredible, to be honest. And after that, I was still investigating, but I was 99.9% sure, right? And this was around February, so a year ago. Okay. And then I would say that one of the signs that I received wasn't a dream, it was like a synchronicity. Okay. So I went on this road trip up to the Peak District here in the UK, and there's like lakes and mountains and like really beautiful scenery, right? And when I went up there, I remembered this ayah in the Quran that says that, verily God placed mountains on the earth so that it wouldn't shake.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing a bit here, forgive me guys. And it was just something really, I don't know, very, very close to me, because I had always been fascinated by mountains. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but I always liked mountains, And when I saw the mountains, I remembered God. I remember I said, alhamdulillah, you placed these mountains, you created everything, like the sea, the sky, that doesn't fall, the mountains here on earth, you created the solid ground so I could stand here to appreciate this view. And then after the road trip, a couple of days later, when I got home, I grabbed my Quran, and the first page I opened was that exact verse.
Wow.
The ayah I saw was that exact ayah.
Subhanallah.
And I just knew with yaqeen at that moment that God is truly with us. Like He is with us.
Very present.
Very present. And He knows everything, and He's taking care of you. And the very reason that we're sat here, we're breathing, we're talking to each other is because, by His grace.
That's beautiful. That is very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
So you got that sign, and how did that connect for you, deciding to make such an active step? I mean, you made the decision to come and be a part of this community.
Yes.
You must have seen something very real in the teachings of Abba Sadiq to dedicate your life to this. You were in Imperial College London. You had quite a few opportunities ahead of you.
Of course.
And then you decided, hey, I'm going to take what I've learned and what I know and place it at the feet of the Imam of the time. What made you know he's the Imam of the time? What was that moment where you were like, hey, I need to pledge my allegiance now?
For sure, it was the knowledge he showed, for sure. And then it was the asking God directly and all these signs that God gave me. I knew for sure that this is, you know, something that God would do to a sincere servant, because I was asking sincerely. He gave me all these signs, and it's just logic. You know, if you ask sincerely, then you're going to get a sincere answer. You know, and then the will of Prophet Muhammad. Right?
Yes.
And then the third criteria, right? The community, the banner.
Yeah.
That the whole concept of that supremacy is to God. That all the man-made systems never work. They've never worked for history, and they will never work. Like as above, so below. There's a king above, there has to be a king down here. You know, everything made sense to me. And when I heard that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family, commanded everyone, and the family of Muhammad, commanded everyone that when the Qiyam rises, that they should go to him, even if you have to break out of a box or crawl over ice or, you know, do whatever is necessary to go there. I knew that it became incumbent upon me to go. Like there was no other choice.
SubhanAllah.
If I say I believe, right, and I believe in the Prophet Muhammad, I have to believe what he's saying, right? I have to obey him, or else it's just like hypocrisy. It's not true belief, or it's belief, but not really.
It's a shortcoming in that
It's
belief.
a shortcoming, yeah, exactly. So when I heard Abu Sadiq say that, and I checked the hadith, you know, and yeah, it's there, and all the hadiths point towards the greatness and the importance of the mission of the Qiyam,
Yeah.
I knew that I had to go, you know, and also because it matched up with the mission that I had, which was to help the people, you know. There was two things growing up. It was one, finding the truth, and two, helping the people, you know. And then in this call, I realized that they're the same thing, essentially, or they come from the same...
They are not separable.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
So Zhong, you know, a lot of people watching might be saying to themselves, yeah, but how did you do it? You know, like, wasn't it difficult? Wasn't it painful? Didn't you have to go through giving up certain things that were beloved to you, or making certain sacrifices in order to be a part of this greater cause and doing this work? Absolutely, it is a selfless act, but it can't have been easy. What would you say to those people?
Nothing is easy in the beginning. You know, everything is hard, but once you start doing it, it doesn't become easier, you just get better at it. And I think what I had in my heart was that, first of all, I'm not the only one who's done this, so I know it's possible, right? Abu Sadiq alayhi salam is not the first prophet to have called towards this, and so like, all the prophets called towards this. And that verse in the Bible where Jesus says that anyone who loves their father or mother or son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me.
Yes.
Right. And also you have to think about, if me as an individual sacrificing my future or my parents, for the sake of argument, just for the sake of, I don't know, 10 people being able to have their parents and having their futures, I would do it, you know, because how many people, innocent people, have had to sacrifice their family, not by choice, you know, because of war or famine or pestilence or supremacy of man. At the end of it, it boils down to that, right? Like here we're fighting for the concept of supremacy is to God. And if we can make little personal sacrifices for the greater good, then, you know, I can go to sleep feeling easy, you know.
I think that's very well said. That really is very well said, and you're right, it is a worthier cause. And what is the sacrifice other than to actually find God and actually to receive that truth? So you're so right that it is, it can be difficult, but you should see it as something that is with goodness, so it wouldn't be then in the end, ultimately. So I think that's very well said. Maybe you could give your perspective on the goal of the wise for the viewers. You read the book and also you watched the lecture series. Is there anything in particular that for you was the most beautiful teaching you heard, or the most appealing part of the religion or of the call of Imam Mahdi?
Yeah, I would say the chapter 22, I think, was an amazing chapter. It's the chapter of karma. It's the fact how Imam Ahmad Hassan, from him his peace, connected like karmic retribution with God, like how
that was amazing.
It was amazing. This perfect system that ensures that nothing, like everything adds up in the end. Everything balances out. You don't have to worry about somebody doing injustice to you or you doing injustice to someone. It will come back to you eventually, right? Just by the most subtle ways ever. Another chapter that was amazing for me personally was chapter 15, Light and Darkness. I think especially the ending,
Yes.
It was amazing. I remember I cried when I read that ending. It was basically Abu Sadiq and Imam Ahmad Hassan from them is peace. They're having a discussion, and Abu Sadiq was telling Imam Ahmad Hassan that most of his people are what society considers rejects, right, or people who are strange or have done things. And Imam Ahmad Hassan, from his piece, gives a beautiful answer, which is that, all these people are welcome. They didn't come for the what you would expect as being the best people, the most religious people, the ones who are only in appearance. Therefore, he came for the ones who are like downtrodden and, the people who society pushes apart, and tries to cover them up and say, just the sinners and the shortcomers. The ones who are rejected, and he welcomes them, he opens the doors, and he's going to raise the religion out of them. Can you imagine that?
And he's going to establish the kingdom with them.
Of God.
It's so inspiring.
Right. It's incredible. I think it should be inspiring for every single person out there who feels, like they're a shortcomer, who feels that they're, they have no hope in this life.
Or who feel that they have gone so far away from God that
there's no way back. Yeah.
There's always a way back, and God is always close. And God is always like asking these, like telling these people, "Hey, come! Like you just need to commit to God." And this is all that He requires for Him. I love the verse in the Quran where He says that He can turn your bad deeds into good deeds.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's something that everyone needs to take to heart and to understand. God is the all merciful. There's nothing you can do that He cannot forgive except you selling yourself to a person that He that he doesn't have divine authority. This is the only thing that He cannot forgive you, because this is you selling yourself to slavery. Yes. So He wants you to be free, and to be a slave of God is to be truly free.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And you saw that, you recognized that, and when you joined the community, what would you describe that like? It must have been something for sure it was very new for you, and it was very different. Was it what you expected? How was it for you? Like, how would you describe that?
I came here without expectations.
Very good. That is a great piece of advice, actually. Please, for anyone who's listening, that is how you approach God. You do not have expectations. Great start there. Go on.
For sure, yeah. And then I think I learned to live the way, I'm still learning. And it's a very harmonious way of life. I think it teaches you to, first of all, share in a very, very good way. That there's no, how do you say this, like ill feeling. There's no like, this is mine, this is yours. It's more like, I'm using this. If you need it, you can take it.
Exactly.
I think this is a very good way of living. And I think the system that we have here, it's a very divine system. And the most important bit is that Abu Sadiq is overwatching it. Abu Sadiq is the one who's directing the ship. Abu Sadiq is the one who's steering us through the rocks and the jagged edges, in this big storm. And people, I think, can see it around the world. There's a big storm coming. I mean, it already came, I think.
It's already starting.
It's already started. The rain has already started. Yeah. And the only way you can make it through is by being on the ark. Or else you're going to get drowned and you're going to get, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think this community is a cave. It's a ship. It's a safe haven for those who want to build a better world, essentially.
Very well said, well described, and we're reaching the end of the program. But I wanted to make sure that we ask you this question that we always ask everyone.
Okay.
If you could take these minutes and utilize them to describe as best as you can to the world who Abu Sadiq is to you and how you would basically explain who he is to people.
I would start off by saying that he's a friend. He's the best of friends. He's a father. He's a teacher. He's the one who deals with people the best way anyone could ever deal with people. I mean, he's something very, very special. And I think most of you, if not all of you, can recognize that. But he's even more special when you're actually in front of him and he actually talks to you. And he's just, it's very hard to put into words, but if I had to try, you can tell that he's someone who never thinks for himself, as in he never thinks of himself. He's someone who's always thinking for the other people. I remember one time when we were gathered in the kitchen, and then someone walked in and saw that we were gathered and there wasn't much space, so they left. And I remember that Abu Sadiq, the first thing he said, which stuck with me, was like, did they need something? Like, they must have come here for something, right? Do they need a coffee? Do they need a glass of water? And he sent one of us to go check and ask that person, like, is it, like, what do you need, basically? So he's so attentive to these subtleties of the interactions of the human being that he's perfect. He's perfect at dealing with people. He's which makes sense, by the way. It makes sense why he's in the role he's in.
Absolutely.
He's the one who can actually, bring every culture together. He's built this community of, I don't know how many nations, probably more than 100 nations, and all these different ages and cultures and languages, and he's meshed them up together into a cohesive unit that, that we would live for each other, die for each other, and do anything for each other.
Absolutely.
So I would say that Abu Sadiq is the Qa'im. He's the riser of the family of Muhammad. He is the representative of God today.
He is. He absolutely is, and a testament to that is the fact that all these people, like you said, Zhong, are coming together and creating those moments together. We're creating experiences together, a bond that is so unbreakable that we would not just die for each other, we want to live for each other.
Yes.
And this is the whole point of being in the call of Imam al-Mahdi. We are that community that the world was waiting for, and the world is welcome to be a part of. And we really are so grateful that you are a part of it, Zhong.
I'm grateful to be here.
We're happy that you joined us, and thank you for taking the time to sit with us today and answering these questions. I'm sure the viewers have benefited a lot from your answers.
Thank you, guys, and all thanks due to God.
God bless you. And I guess we could call it a wrap, Kevin. It's been a good episode today. Thanks for joining us today, Kevin.
Thank you very much to everyone who watched us.
Yes, and we will be coming back on the air again tomorrow morning for Rise Up, same time, same place. So make sure you tune in. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.